People say you should never drive to your sister's house unannounced. I ignored them. I turned onto her quiet street and found my husband's red truck parked in her driveway when he was supposed to be working at the fire station. 5 seconds later, I looked through the thin curtains and realized that some fires do not need water. They just need a fully charged phone and a family group chat ready to watch the betrayal live. My name is Vivian Stephen. I am 33 years old, and I spend 40 hours a week telling other people how to fix their lives. I work as a licensed clinical social worker at the Vesperix Community Wellness Center in Maple Harbor, North Carolina. It is a fancy name for a place where people pay too much money to sit in beige chairs and cry about their mothers. You would think that listening to other people's trauma for a living would give me some sort of immunity to the disaster brewing in my own kitchen, but apparently, irony is the universe's favorite form of humor. My salary is nothing to write home about, but the benefits include unlimited coffee and the constant realization that no matter how bad my day is, at least I am not the woman who set her ex-boyfriend's jet ski on fire. Or so I thought. I thought I had a sturdy, reliable husband, Caleb Monroe, 36 years old, built like a brick house, a firefighter who also moonlighted as a personal trainer because apparently saving cats from trees was not enough cardio. The whole neighborhood loved him. He was the guy who shoveled snow for the elderly widow next door without being asked. He was the guy who looked good in those tight station t-shirts. And then there was Naomi, my half-sister, 29 years old and currently obsessed with being a lifestyle vlogger. She had 90,000 followers on TikTok who tuned in daily to watch her perform the act of being a human being. Morning routine for a self-love girly. She would title a video where she just made oatmeal. I was usually the one cleaning up the mess behind the camera. I paid off her credit card debt when she tried to launch a sustainable swimwear line that turned out to be neither sustainable nor waterproof. I got her out of a lease she could not afford. I was the big sister, the safety net, but lately, the net was fraying. Last week, Naomi posted a video titled Healing at Home, and she was curled up on a velvet throw pillow that looked suspiciously like the one I had bought for my own living room but had not unboxed yet. I brushed it off. I told myself I was being petty, just like I brushed off the changes in Caleb. The red flags were there. They were waving in my face like those inflatable tube men at a car dealership. Caleb had started picking up strange shifts. He would swap a night shift for a Tuesday afternoon because it was better for lifting at the Iron Haven Performance Lab, the gym where he picked up clients. Suddenly, he started smelling like cedarwood cologne instead of smoke and sweat. He started taking mirror selfies in our bathroom, flexing his biceps with captions like, "Stay loyal to your grind," and his phone. That was the big one. It used to sit on the coffee table, screen up, buzzing with group texts about fantasy football. Now, it lived in his pocket or face down on the counter. He changed the passcode, claiming it was to protect the privacy of the victims he treated on calls. I believed him. I wanted to believe him because he was a firefighter, and firefighters are the good guys. Right? It was a Tuesday in late October. I had just finished running a support group for survivors of domestic emotional abuse. We spent 90 minutes talking about boundaries. One of my patients, a woman named Brenda, who usually just stared at the carpet, looked me dead in the eye and asked me a question that froze the room. She asked if I was sure I was in a healthy relationship. I froze. I laughed it off, gave a professional non-answer, and moved the discussion to self-care strategies. But the question stuck in my throat like a dry cracker. Then the power went out at Vesperix. Some transformers blew down the street. We got sent home at 2:30 in the afternoon. I should have gone home. I should have taken a nap. Instead, I decided to be the good big sister. Naomi had been blowing up my phone all week about a vlog camera she had left in my car after our last brunch. She said she needed it for a brand deal. So I drove to her place. She lived in a new development called The Willows, a collection of townhomes that looked so identical even Google Maps got confused. I turned the corner onto her street, ready to double park, run in, drop the camera, and leave. That was when I saw it. A red Ford F-150, Caleb's truck. It was unmistakable. It had the Maple Harbor Fire Department decal on the back window and the dent in the bumper from when he backed into a hydrant 3 years ago. It was parked perfectly in front of Naomi's garage. It was 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. Caleb was supposed to be at the station. He was supposed to be on a 24-hour shift. My first thought was stupid. I thought maybe her carbon monoxide detector went off. Maybe she called the station and he responded. But there were no lights flashing, no other trucks, just his. And the station was 5 miles away. The only fire station in this subdivision is my heart, I muttered to myself, and I do not recall dispatching him. My stomach did that thing it does when you drop on a roller coaster. As a therapist, I tell people to listen to their gut. My gut was currently screaming. I did not stop. I drove right past the house, staring straight ahead, hoping he had not seen my old SUV. I turned the corner and parked 2 blocks away behind a dumpster. I sat there for a minute, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I took off my blazer. I felt ridiculous, like a low-budget FBI agent in a minivan. I was wearing a t-shirt and sneakers, which made me feel slightly more agile. I walked back toward the house. I stuck to the sidewalk, dodging the sprinklers that were aggressively watering the pavement. I approached Naomi's unit from the side. I knew where her blind spots were. I knew she never locked the back gate because she said it was bad for the energy flow. Naomi's house was an open-concept nightmare. The living room had these massive floor-to-ceiling windows that looked right out onto the patio. She usually kept the sheer curtains drawn, but they were thin. I crept up to the side of the house, avoiding the view of the Ring doorbell camera she had installed on the front door. I pressed my back against the vinyl siding. I could hear voices. I heard a laugh, a deep, resonant laugh that I had woken up to for 5 years. Then I heard the clink of glass, and then Naomi's voice, clear as day. She asked him what would happen if I found out. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I pulled my phone out of my back pocket. My hands were shaking. But then the professional part of my brain took over. Documentation. Evidence. I opened the camera app and switched to video. I took a deep breath and leaned forward just enough to see through the gap in the curtains. I expected to see them kissing. I expected to see clothes on the floor. I expected the cliché. What I saw was worse, much worse. Caleb and Naomi were sitting next to each other on the beige sectional sofa. They were not embracing, they were working. There was a laptop open on the coffee table, casting a blue glow on their faces. A spreadsheet was maximized on the screen, filled with rows and rows of numbers. A bottle of white wine sat open next to it, and Caleb's hand was resting on Naomi's thigh. It was not a groping touch. It was a comfortable touch. It was the touch of a man who had been touching that thigh for a long time. I watched as Caleb pointed at the screen and laughed. Naomi leaned her head on his shoulder, looking at the numbers with adoration. I whispered to the empty patio that this was not just an affair. I realized this was a plan. I hit the record button, and just like that, the life I thought I had went up in smoke. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I did not open the camera app immediately. Instead, I opened WhatsApp. I scrolled past the work threads and the neighborhood watch alerts until I found the one group chat that has been the bane of my existence for half a decade, the Steven Circus. It included my parents, my Aunt Marcy, who drinks too much Moscato, Uncle Ray, who only communicates in thumbs-up emojis, and about 5 assorted cousins. The last message was from my father, Harold. It was a sticker of a bulldog wearing a police hat, sent 12 minutes ago. The irony was so thick I could almost taste it. My father, the former military police officer turned security consultant, had no idea his eldest daughter was currently standing outside a crime scene initiated by his youngest. I typed a message. Does everyone want to see an 18-plus live show about family betrayal? I did not hit send yet. I tapped the paperclip icon. I selected the option to go live. I pinned the button, ready to launch. I reached for the front door handle. My palm was sweating, but my grip was firm. I gave it a gentle twist. It turned effortlessly. Unlocked. Of course it was unlocked. Crime and stupidity go hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly. They felt safe here. They felt invincible. They were about to feel very exposed. I stepped into the foyer. The house smelled of vanilla bean candles and cheap deceit. I kept my footsteps light. moving with the silent precision of a woman who has spent years sneaking out of boring staff meetings. The living room was straight ahead. The back of the beige sectional sofa was facing me. I could see the top of Caleb's head. I knew the way his hair curled at the nape of his neck. I used to think it was cute. Now it just looked like a target. Next to him, I saw a smaller figure huddled in an oversized gray hoodie. My hoodie, or rather, Caleb's hoodie that I had stolen from him, which apparently had now been restolen by my sister. The circle of life, I suppose. I crept closer. They were so absorbed in the laptop screen on the coffee table that I could have driven a tank through the kitchen and they would not have noticed. The screen was bright, casting a bluish tint on the wine glasses. I squinted. The file name at the top of the window was visible for a split second before Caleb scrolled down. Retreat at Projection VSID SSN XLSX. My breath hitched. VS, Vivian Stephen, SSN, Social Security number. I stopped breathing for a moment. The air in my lungs turned into ice. This was not just adultery. Adultery is painful. Adultery is a heartbreak. This was a spreadsheet. This was calculated. This was my husband and my sister drinking Pinot Grigio while dissecting my financial identity like a biology frog. I stepped onto the hardwood floor where I knew it would creak. I dragged the sole of my sneaker against the grain, making a sharp squeaking sound. Then, I cleared my throat. It was a loud, wet, aggressive sound. The reaction was almost comical. Caleb jumped so hard, his knee hit the coffee table, sending the wine bottle wobbling. Naomi spun around, her eyes wide and terrified. Caleb's hand, which had been resting comfortably on her thigh, flew into the air as if he had been burned. "Viv," Caleb choked out. His face went from flushed to pale in 5 seconds. I stood there, hands in my pockets, staring them down. "Oh, I apologize," I said, my voice steady and cold, dropping the temperature in the room by 10 degrees. I thought my sister's house did not come with subtitles for cheating husband partners with family. Caleb scrambled to stand up. "Viv, wait, it is not what it looks like. Sit down," I commanded. It was my therapist's voice, the voice I used on spiraling patients. It worked. He sat back down. I pulled my phone out. I looked at the group chat. I hit the button. Live video. Starting in 3, 2, 1. I propped the phone on the kitchen island counter. It had a perfect view. It framed Caleb, Naomi, the damning laptop, the wine, and the neon sign on the wall behind them that read, "Good vibes only" in cursive pink light. Notifications began to pop up on my screen immediately. Mom is watching, Uncle Ray is watching, Cousin Jenna is watching. "Welcome to a special episode," I said, stepping into the frame but keeping my eyes on the camera lens, addressing my family directly. Today's show is titled, "How to Steal Your Sister's Social Security Number and Sleep with Her Husband in the Same Afternoon." Naomi, Caleb, do you want to say hello to the audience? Naomi let out a small squeak. She pulled the hood of the sweatshirt up, trying to hide her face. "Vivian, stop. Are you recording?" "I am live streaming. Sweetie," I said, flashing a tight, shark-like smile. "Say hi to Mom. She just joined." Caleb looked at the phone, then at me, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "Vivian, please, turn it off. We were just helping Naomi with a business plan." "That is all. This is a misunderstanding." "A business plan," I repeated, walking over to the coffee table. "Interesting." Naomi grabbed Caleb's sleeve. Her knuckles were white. "I just needed advice. Vivian, I needed financial advice, and advice about leaving toxic relationships. Caleb was just listening to me." I laughed. It was a sharp, jagged sound. "Oh, so am I in a toxic relationship? And using my social security number in that Excel file right there is what self-care is, that part of your morning routine now." The phone screen was exploding with bubbles. "Lydia." "Naomi." "Stephen, what are you doing?" Lydia. "Is that Caleb?" Lydia. "Oh my God. Aunt Marcy sent a gif of a woman flipping a table. Harold Vivian. Record everything. Get a close-up of the laptop screen. Do not shake the camera. I loved my father, even in a crisis. He was looking for the evidence trail. Great idea. Dad, I said aloud. I picked up the phone and walked right up to the coffee table. Caleb tried to close the laptop, but I was faster. I jammed my hand in the way. Manners. I pointed the camera lens directly at the screen. The focus adjusted. The text became crisp. Retreat at projection VS IDSSN. XLSX. I panned down to a column labeled expenses. There was a line item that read, cabin deposit, paid with VS credit. Look at that, I narrated, my voice shaking slightly with rage but mostly with adrenaline. Looks like I am paying for a romantic getaway I was not invited to. It is just a loan, Caleb shouted. Finally finding his voice, he stood up, towering over me, trying to use his size to intimidate me. It used to work. It did not work today. We were going to pay you back as soon as the business launched. It is for our future, Viv. Our future, I asked. You mean the future where you bankrupt me? I turned the camera back to face them. How long? I asked. Viv, please, Naomi sobbed. You are ruining my life. How long? I repeated, enunciating every word. Caleb looked at the phone, realized Uncle Ray was probably watching him from his recliner in Florida, and slumped his shoulders. A few months, he whispered. I cannot hear you. I said, for the record, Caleb. 4 months, he yelled. 4 months. Okay, are you happy? Naomi. I turned the lens to her. She wiped her nose on my husband's sleeve. It was an emotional connection. Vivian, you are always so cold. You are always working. You do not understand passion. We bonded over our dreams. Dreams, I deadpanned. Emotions that require the use of my social security number and credit cards under my name are not called passion. Naomi, in this country, that is called grand larceny. It is theft. It is not love. The chat was moving so fast I could barely read it. Mom was typing in all caps. Aunt Marcy was asking if she should bring her baseball bat. Dad simply typed, enough evidence. Get out. I looked at the two of them. My husband, the hero of the neighborhood, my sister, the golden child. They looked small. They looked pathetic. And for the first time in years, I did not feel the urge to fix them. I did not feel the urge to cover for them. I looked straight into the camera lens. Family, you can rest assured, I am not going to cry. I am going to sue. I saw Caleb's eyes widen. A flicker of genuine terror crossed his face. He remembered. He remembered the day before our wedding, when my father sat him down with a stack of papers. He remembered the prenuptial agreement he had signed without reading because he was so arrogant, so sure he was the prize. He remembered that he had signed away his life if he ever touched my financial stability. I ended the live stream. The silence that rushed back into the room was deafening. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. I did not look at the laptop again. I had seen enough. I looked at Caleb. You have 48 hours, I said. I want every single thing you own out of my house, my keys on the counter. If you are not gone, I will burn your clothes on the front lawn, and as for the money, I looked at Naomi, who was trembling. The police can handle the rest. I turned around and walked out. I did not slam the door. I left it wide open. Let the neighbors see. Let the whole world see. I had nothing to hide anymore. I do not remember driving away from Naomi's house. The 15 minutes between walking out that front door and putting the car in park are a black hole in my memory. I was operating on autopilot, the kind of dissociated fugue state I usually read about in textbooks during my graduate studies. When I finally blinked and came back to my body, I realized I was parked in the last row of a Target parking lot. It was the super Target on the edge of town, the one with the massive red concrete balls out front that teenagers are always trying to skateboard over. I had the air conditioning blasting so hard that condensation was forming on the dashboard vents, but I was sweating. My hands were shaking so violently that I had to grip the steering wheel just to keep them still. I looked out the window. Life was continuing with an insulting amount of normalcy. 2 rows over, a mother was wrestling a toddler into a car seat while a cart full of groceries slowly rolled away from her. Near the entrance, a couple was having a heated debate over a bulk package of toilet paper. I watched the husband throw his hands up in exasperation. I felt a strange, hysterical bubble of laughter rise in my throat. I wanted to roll down my window and scream at him. I wanted to tell him that unless his wife was currently using his social security number to fund a cabin retreat with her sister, he should probably just shut up and buy the 2-ply, but I did not scream. Instead, I leaned my forehead against the steering wheel and let myself cry. It was ugly. It was the kind of crying that makes your chest ache and your throat raw. I cried for the husband I thought I had yesterday. I cried for the sister I defended against every bully on the playground. I cried for the stupid, naive woman who thought her biggest problem today was a power outage at the clinic. The breakdown lasted exactly 4 minutes. I know this because I checked the digital clock on the dashboard. 4 minutes of pity, that was all they were getting. The tears stopped as quickly as they had started, replaced by a cold, clinical numbness. It was the feeling I got when a patient told me something truly horrific, and my brain switched from human mode to crisis intervention mode. My phone was vibrating against my thigh like a trapped insect. I pulled it out. The Steven Circus group chat was a war zone. My mother, Lydia, was typing in all caps. "She is dead to me. I am driving over there right now to tear that weave out of her head." Aunt Marcy was sending voice notes that I did not bother listening to. But knowing Marcy, they involved threats of physical violence and suggestions involving a tire iron. My best friend Jade had sent a private message: "I'm currently looking up professional arsonists on the dark web. Just kidding. Half kidding. Send me a pin drop and I will bring the gasoline and the tequila." I scrolled past them all. One message stood out. It was from my father. "Harold." It was not in the group chat. It was a direct text. Sent 2 minutes ago. "Do not react further. Do not go back inside. Call me. Important." My father is not a man of many words. He is a retired military police officer who spent the last decade working as a high-level security consultant for corporate firms. He treats emotions like evidence, something to be bagged, tagged, and analyzed later. If Harold Stevens said something was important, it meant the building was burning down. I hit the call button. He picked up on the first ring. "Are you safe?" he asked. "No? Hello? No? Are you okay? Just a threat assessment." "I am at Target," I said, my voice sounding raspy. "I am safe." "Good," he said. I could hear the clicking of a keyboard in the background. "Listen to me carefully. Vivian, I need you to shut off the emotional part of your brain. I need you to listen to me as if I am your case supervisor." "Dad, I saw them," I whispered, the image of Caleb's hand on Naomi's thigh flashing behind my eyelids. They were looking at a spreadsheet with my name on it. "I know," Harold said, his voice calm and gravelly. "I have been tracking the irregularities for 3 months. I sat up straighter. "What?" "I have been monitoring your financial standing since the day you got married," he said. "Do not get angry. I trust people, Vivian, but I trust data more. 3 months ago, I noticed a series of microtransactions on that credit card you rarely use, the one with the high limit. Then a credit inquiry for a small business loan that was flagged but approved. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, feeling a fresh wave of betrayal. "Because until today, I thought it might have been you," he admitted. "I thought maybe you were starting a private practice and wanted to surprise us. But when you went live, when I saw that file name, the puzzle pieces fit." "What puzzle pieces?" "Do you remember the prenuptial agreement?" he asked. I groaned. "Dad, not this again. We signed it in the church basement 10 minutes before the ceremony, because you wouldn't let Caleb walk down the aisle otherwise. Did you read it?" "I skimmed it. It was standard stuff. If we divorce, what's mine is mine." "It was not standard," Harold cut in sharply. "I had my lawyer draft a specific clause, Clause 14, the financial misconduct clause." I stared at a stray shopping cart that had blown against my bumper. "What does that mean?" "It means," Harold said, the keyboard clicking speeding up, "that if Caleb uses your identity, your social security number, or your credit assets for any commercial enterprise without your express written consent. The consequences are absolute. It means any liability, any debt, and any lawsuits resulting from that business are 100% his responsibility. But here's the kicker. Vivian, any assets, any intellectual property, and any profit generated using your identity lawfully forfeit to the victim. You? I tried to process the legalese through the fog in my brain. So if they make money, it is your money, Harold finished. But right now, they are not making money. They are hemorrhaging it, and they are doing it through a shell company. My phone buzzed. Harold had sent me a series of screenshots. I put him on speaker and opened them. The first image was a registration for a limited liability company filed 4 months ago. Glow Reset Retreats, LLC. Glow Reset, I read aloud, the name tasting like bile. It sounds like a juice cleanse. Look at the registered agent, Harold said. Owner Caleb Monroe. But under the tax identification section, the document listed a number I knew by heart, my social security number. He is the owner, Harold explained, but the credit backing the company is yours. He is leveraging your credit score to secure the leases. I swiped to the next screenshot. It was a bank statement for a business account I didn't know existed. There were outgoing payments for luxury cabin rental, Blue Ridge Mountains, there were payments for Facebook ads, and there, on the first of every month, was a recurring transfer of $1,500. The recipient was Naomi Stephen. The memo line read, Social Media Consulting. Consulting, I scoffed, feeling my blood turn hot again. She is sleeping with him for $1,500 a month. It is worse than that, Viv, Harold said, his voice dropping an octave. Look at the last document. It was a draft of a brochure. It was flashy, filled with buzzwords like trauma-informed healing and nervous system regulation, and there, listed as the clinical director, was my name, Vivian Stephen, licensed clinical social worker. They are not just stealing your money, Harold said grimly. They are selling your license. They are planning to bill insurance for these retreats as group therapy sessions. That is why they need your provider ID. That was the ID in the Excel file name. The world tilted on its axis. This was not just a messy divorce anymore. If they started billing insurance companies for services I did not provide, services that took place in a luxury cabin while my husband played guru and my sister played influencer, I would be the one on the hook. I could lose my license. I could be blacklisted. I could go to federal prison for insurance fraud. He is going to destroy my career, I whispered. He is going to burn down everything I worked for just to look like a big shot. Not if we burn him first, Harold said. I wiped the last remaining tear from my cheek. It felt sticky and gross. What do I do? Will I go back there? Do I call the police? No, Harold commanded. If you call the police now, it looks like a domestic dispute. He will spin it. He will say you gave verbal permission. He will say you are hysterical because of the affair. We need concrete proof that you knew nothing about the business side. So what is the plan? Silence, Harold said. Absolute, terrifying silence. Tonight, you go home. You do not mention Glow Reset. You do not mention the money. You do not mention the spreadsheet. Dad, I cannot look at him without vomiting. You are a therapist, he said. Act like one. Treat him like a patient who just had a psychotic break. Tomorrow, you play the devastated wife. You act shocked about the cheating, only cheating. Make him think the affair is the only problem. If he thinks you are just heartbroken, he will get sloppy. He will think he can manipulate you emotionally. And then I call Ellen Ross, Harold said. Ellen was the family lawyer, a woman so terrifying she could make a judge cry. We filed for divorce immediately, but we also filed a motion for forensic accounting based on Clause 14. We let him dig the hole a little deeper, and then we bury him in it. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red-rimmed. My mascara had smudged into raccoon circles. My hair was a mess. But behind the cosmetic disaster, something had shifted. The panic was gone. The heartbreak was being packed away into a little box in the back of my mind, to be dealt with later. Right now, there was only room for strategy. Caleb and Naomi thought they were the main characters of this story. They thought I was the sad, unsuspecting victim who would cry and beg and eventually fade away. They forgot that I spent my days analyzing behavior. They forgot that I knew exactly how narcissists operated. They needed attention, they needed validation, and they needed me to be weak. "Okay," I said to the phone. "I can do that." "Remember, Vivian," Harold said, his voice softening for the first time. "You do not need to destroy your life to destroy him. You just need to let the law work. You have to be 3 steps ahead of them. Can you do that?" I looked out at the parking lot again. The couple arguing about toilet paper had stopped. They were loading their car together, unified by the mundane task of survival. I envied them for a second, and then I let it go. I didn't want mundane anymore. I wanted justice. "I can do it," I said. "If they want to play games with my life, I am going to be the one writing the rules." I hung up the phone. I checked my makeup in the mirror, wiped away the black streaks, and started the car. The engine roared to life. It was time to go home and put on the performance of a lifetime. I pulled into the driveway of the 2-story colonial house that I had bought 3 years before I met Caleb. The porch light was on. Through the front window, I could see the flicker of candles. My husband was setting the stage. I walked inside, and the smell of garlic and rosemary hit me. He was cooking pasta. It was his apology meal. He had made the same dish the time he forgot our 2nd anniversary to go on a fishing trip with the guys. Soft acoustic music was playing from the Bluetooth speaker in the corner, some sad, indie folk playlist designed to manipulate emotions. Caleb stood by the kitchen island, wearing an apron over his station t-shirt, looking like a kicked puppy with biceps. "Viv," he said, his voice dropping to that low, rough register that usually made my knees weak. "I did not think you were coming back tonight." "I live here," I said, hanging my keys on the hook. I did not look at him. I looked at the floor. I looked at the ceiling. I looked anywhere but at the eyes that had watched my sister across a spreadsheet 3 hours ago. "We need to talk," he said, moving toward me. He reached out to touch my arm, but I flinched. He pulled back, looking wounded. "I made a mistake, Viv, a horrible mistake, but Naomi is confused. She is going through a lot, and I just got caught up trying to help her. But you are my wife. You are my family." I let my shoulders slump. I forced a tremor into my voice. "I cannot do this right now. Caleb, I am broken." I saw the relief wash over his face. He interpreted my weakness as confusion, not calculation. If I was broken, I was manageable. If I was just a sad wife, he could fix it with pasta and promises. He did not need to worry about his financial schemes if I was too busy crying about his infidelity. "I understand," he said soothingly. "Just eat something. We can figure this out. I am not going to lose you." I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and lay on the bed, fully clothed. I waited. I listened to the sounds of him cleaning up the kitchen, the clinking of plates, the heavy footsteps of a man who thought he had successfully dodged a bullet. Around 11 o'clock, I heard the distinct sound of ice hitting a glass, whiskey, 2 glasses, judging by the rhythm, his liquid courage. By midnight, the house was silent. At 1 in the morning, I crept out of the bedroom. I moved past the guest room where he was sleeping or passing out and slipped into the shared home office. I sat in his leather chair. I opened his MacBook. The screen lit up, asking for a password. I stared at the prompt. Caleb was a man of habit. He was not a tech genius. He was a man who lifted heavy things for a living. I typed in Buster123. Buster was the golden retriever we had buried in the backyard 4 years ago. The laptop unlocked immediately. I let out a short, dry laugh. The stupidity of criminals never ceased to amaze me. I did not look at his browser history. I did not care about porn or dating sites. I went straight to the Finder. I typed in GR. A folder appeared, Glow Reset Internal. I opened it, and the cold blue light of the screen illuminated the end of my marriage and the beginning of my war. There were dozens of files. I opened a PDF titled Blue Ridge Cabin Rental Agreement. It was a lease for a luxury property, $5,000 a week. The tenant was listed as Glow Reset Retreats, LLC, but the guarantor was Vivian Stephen. I scrolled to the bottom. There was a signature. It was an electronic signature, a loop-de-loop scrawl that looked about 80% like mine. It was close enough to pass a casual inspection, but different enough that a forensic expert would spot the hesitation in the stylus stroke. I opened another file. Insurance Billing Proposal, Doc X. This one made my blood run cold. It was a draft email to a major health insurance provider. Subject provider verification for group therapy retreats, body. We are excited to confirm that all sessions at Glow Reset will be supervised by our clinical director, Vivian Stephen, LCSW. License number 88942. Attached is her credentialing packet. We anticipate billing under CPT code 90853 for group psychotherapy. I put a hand over my mouth to stifle a gasp. They were not just stealing my credit. They were using my professional license to legitimize a scam. If they billed insurance for therapy, that was actually just Naomi drinking green juice and talking about vibes, and I was listed as the supervisor, I would be the one losing my license. I would be the one facing an ethics board. I would be the one charged with insurance fraud. I plugged in a USB drive I had swiped from the drawer. I started dragging everything, every contract, every spreadsheet, every draft. Then I found the emails. I searched for Naomi's name. There were hundreds of threads. She was CC'd on everything as creative director influencer liaison. I opened an email from her to Caleb, sent 3 days ago. Subject narrative arc for launch. Caleb, I was thinking for the first promo video, I should do a story time. I can talk about how I grew up in a shadow, how I had a controlling older sister who made me feel small and judged my creativity. We don't have to name Viv, but people will know. It fits the breaking free from toxicity theme of the retreat. We can sell the idea that Glow Reset saved me. Thoughts. I stared at the words. Controlling my older sister. Toxic. I had paid her rent. I had held her hair back when she vomited from too many tequila shots. I had co-signed her car loan. And this was her plan. To monetize our relationship. To paint me as the villain, so she could sell tickets to a retreat paid for with my credit card. I felt a tear slide down my cheek, but it was not sadness. It was pure, distilled rage. Then I found the smoking gun. It was a note in the Apple Notes app, synced to the laptop. The title was simply Exit Strategy. It was a bulleted list, written in Caleb's distinct, choppy voice. Plan C, timeline. 1. Launch retreat in November. 2. Secure first round of insurance payouts by January. 3. Divorce, V, after the first successful quarter March. 4. Leverage use documentation of V's emotional instability. Her therapy notes from 2019. Panic attacks during mom's surgery to argue she is unfit to manage the business assets or retain full equity in the house. 5. Aim for partial buyout of the house to fund expansion. 6. Transition clinical director role to someone else by June. He had a timeline. He had a date circled on a calendar for when he would discard me, and he planned to use my own mental health history, the panic attacks I suffered when my mother had cancer. The therapy I sought to be a better clinician as a weapon to declare me unstable. He was going to gaslight me in a court of law. I sat back in the chair. The house was silent, but inside my head, it was loud. I looked at my reflection in the dark window of the office. My eyes were puffy. My hair was messy. But the woman looking back at me was not a victim. I am a therapist. I spend my life analyzing patterns. I looked at Caleb's pattern. He needed to be the hero. He needed to be admired. He needed to feel like the smartest guy in the room. Naomi. She needed attention. She needed to be the main character. They had built a house of cards on the assumption that I would crumble. They assumed I would be too emotional to look at the paperwork. They assumed I would be too embarrassed to make a scene. You picked the wrong social worker, I whispered to the empty room. I ejected the USB drive. I emailed the files to a secure, encrypted Proton Mail account I used for sensitive client data. Then I deleted the sent items. I wiped the recent file history. I put the laptop back exactly as I found it. I went back to bed, but I did not sleep. I lay there listening to Caleb snore, planning his destruction. The next morning, at 9 o'clock sharp, I walked into the office of Ellen Ross. Ellen was a family law attorney who terrified most men in Maple Harbor. Her office was small, smelling of old paper and lemon polish. The walls were lined with files that looked like barricades. My father, Harold, was already there, sitting in a wingback chair, looking like a general reviewing battle plans. I placed the laptop, my own personal laptop, on the desk, along with the printed screenshots and the USB drive. "It is worse than we thought," I said, skipping the pleasantries. "They are going after my license." Ellen put on her reading glasses. She flipped through the pages I had printed. She saw the fake signature. She saw the insurance fraud proposal. She saw the exit strategy note. Her eyebrows went up, which for Ellen was the equivalent of a scream. "This is identity theft," Ellen said, her voice crisp. "This is forgery. This is a conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Vivian, we can have him arrested today." "No," Harold said. He looked at me. "Not yet." "Not yet," I agreed. "If we arrest him today, the business folds before it starts. He claims it was just a draft. He claims he never actually billed anyone. He gets a slap on the wrist for the credit card usage." "Exactly," Harold said. Ellen tapped a pen against the desk. "So, what is the play?" "We let them launch," I said. I felt cold and sharp, like a scalpel. "We let them book the guests. We let them submit the paperwork to the insurance companies. We let them commit the crime fully. And while they are doing that, we secure my assets. I want a divorce," I told Ellen. "I want to file today, but I want to file under seal if possible, or at least delay service for 48 hours while we get the forensic accounting order ready." "Clause 14, Ellen said, smiling a smile that did not reach her eyes. "If he uses your identity for business without consent, the assets become yours, and the debts become his." "I want to preemptively contact the licensing board," I added. "I want to file a report stating that my identity has been compromised and that I suspect fraudulent use of my credentials. I want it on record before they send those bills. That way, when the investigation starts, I am the whistleblower, not the accomplice." Ellen pulled out a legal pad. She started writing furiously. "We will file the petition for dissolution of marriage based on adultery and financial misconduct. We will request an emergency freeze on the house equity so he cannot borrow against it, and we will notify the fraud department of the insurance carriers." She pushed a stack of papers toward me. Retainer agreements, authorizations. I picked up the pen. My hand did not shake. Yesterday, I was a woman crying in a Target parking lot. Today, I was the CEO of my own survival. "He thinks I am weak," I said, signing my name with a flourish. "He thinks he can use my anxiety against me." I looked at Harold. He gave me a curt nod of approval. "I am not going to just divorce him," I said, putting the pen down. "I am going to audit him into oblivion." I walked out of Ellen's office into the bright morning sun of Maple Harbor. I checked my phone. Caleb had texted me, "Morning, babe. Hope you slept okay. Thinking of you." I typed back, "I'm okay. Just clearing my head." I hit send. Let him think he was safe. The game had just officially started. I sat in my car for 2 minutes before walking into the house, messing up my hair in the rearview mirror. I rubbed my eyes until they were red and puffy. I practiced a tremor in my hands. If I was going to pull this off, I needed to win an Academy Award for Best Actress in a Domestic Tragedy. I needed to be the Vivian they expected, weak, confused, desperate for connection. I walked through the front door. Caleb was waiting in the living room, pacing back and forth like a caged tiger. When he saw me, he stopped. He looked at my disheveled appearance and relaxed visibly. He did not see a woman on a warpath. He saw a broken wife. "Viv," he breathed out, rushing over to me. Thank God. I was so worried. I let him lead me to the sofa. I sat on the edge, hugging my knees to my chest. I looked at the floor. I do not know what to do. Caleb, I whispered, letting my voice crack. I hate you right now, but I'm terrified of being alone. I am 33 years old. I cannot start over. It was the exact bait a narcissist could not resist. You do not have to start over, Caleb said, kneeling in front of me, grabbing my hands. Babe, listen to me. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Just give me a chance to explain everything. The thing with Naomi and the money, it is all connected. It is all for us. For us? I asked, widening my eyes. I reached into the pocket of my cardigan. I felt the cold metal of the digital voice recorder my father had given me earlier. I slid the switch to the on position. How is stealing my identity for us? Caleb sighed, a sound that was meant to convey that he was bearing a heavy burden for the good of the family. It is not stealing. It is leveraging. Look, Viv, I know you hate your job. You make $40,000 a year listening to people whine. I wanted to get you out of there. Glow Reset Retreats is going to be huge. I just needed to get it off the ground using your credit profile, because mine is well tied up in the truck payments. But my social security number, I pressed gently. It is temporary, he insisted. As soon as we hit our first quarter targets, I was going to transfer everything over. I was building an empire for us. Naomi is just helping with the marketing because she understands that world. She is good on camera. But you are the brains. You are the clinical director. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. And what about the part where you leave me? I asked softly. Did you plan to divorce me after the first successful quarter? Caleb jerked back as if I had slapped him. His eyes darted to the left. What? No. Why would you? How did you know about the quarter? He stopped himself, realizing he had almost confirmed the timeline from the exit strategy note I was not supposed to have seen. I mean, I never thought about that. That is crazy. Who told you that? I am just asking, I said, wiping a fake tear. Because if this business is real, Caleb, I need to understand it. I cannot be liable for something I do not understand. He saw an opening. He stood up and grabbed his tablet from the coffee table. He unlocked it and sat next to me, eager to show off his brilliance. You do not understand business, Viv, and that is okay, he said, patronizing me so hard I almost broke character to punch him. Look at this projection. He pulled up a spreadsheet. It was the same one I had seen through the window, but now I was getting a guided tour. We are charging $5,000 a head for a weekend retreat, he bragged, scrolling through the rows. We rent the cabin for $2,000. Food and juice cost maybe $500. The rest is pure profit. And here is the genius part. He tapped a column labeled Insurance Reimbursement. We bill it as intensive group therapy. Because you are a licensed clinical social worker, we can bill out of network. We just have to skirt a few regulations regarding clinical setting requirements. But everyone does it. Everyone commits insurance fraud, I asked innocently. It is not fraud, he scoffed. It is creative billing. You just need to sign a few supervision forms. I handle the rest. You do not even have to be there. You stay home, keep your job for now, and we collect the checks. I nodded slowly, as if I was considering it. So, I just sign, and we get rich. Exactly. He smiled. And then we pay off the house. We bought a boat. Whatever you want. The doorbell rang. Caleb froze. I told her not to come, he muttered. Let her in, I said, my voice steady. If we are going to fix this, I need to hear from her too. Caleb looked at me with newfound respect. He thought I was being a bigger person. In reality, I just wanted two voices on the tape instead of one. He opened the door, and Naomi swept in. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a bouquet of hydrangeas that looked like they had been bought at a gas station. She took off the glasses to reveal perfectly applied waterproof mascara. Vivian, she choked out, rushing toward me. I am so sorry. Please, can we just talk? Sit down, Naomi, I said, gesturing to the armchair. I moved my cardigan, ensuring the pocket with the recorder was facing her direction. I hung the jacket on the corner of the sofa, the microphone perfectly positioned to capture the entire room. Naomi sat down and immediately launched into her script. I know this looks bad, she began, her voice trembling. But my heart did not choose who to love. I have been so lonely. Viv. And Caleb was the only one who really saw me, not just as a vlogger, but as a soul. We connected over our trauma. He told me how lonely he was, too. So lonely he decided to start a limited liability company with you using my credit score, I said dryly. Naomi blinked, dropping the sad sister act for a second. That was business. You have to separate the two. Tell me about the business. Naomi, I said. Caleb says you are the marketing genius. She sat up straighter, her ego taking over. I am, she said, her voice shifting from pathetic to arrogant. I have already lined up 3 influencers from Charlotte. I have a deal with a detox juice brand for product placement, and I have a whole campaign ready called My Sister's Keeper. My Sister's Keeper, I repeated. It is a narrative arc, she explained, using her hands to frame the air. I talk about growing up with a perfectionist, controlling sister who made me feel small. I talk about how I had to break free to find my own healing. People love that vulnerability stuff. It sells. So you are going to monetize trashing me. If you are going to be weak, Vivian, you might as well let me profit from it, Naomi said, her tone sharpening. Someone has to be the star. You have always been content being the audience. You sit in that clinic all day listening to other people. I am trying to build something. If you want to be rich, you have to be willing to get your hands dirty. I looked at Caleb. He was nodding along, clearly enamored by her ruthlessness. They deserved each other. Okay, I said, letting out a long sigh. I hear you. And honestly, I am tired of being poor. I am tired of the clinic. They both leaned in. I had them. I am willing to consider dropping the divorce petition. I lied. And I am willing to look at keeping the business going, but I need to feel safe. I need to know I am not going to jail. You won't, Caleb promised. I need to be sure, I said. I spoke to the legal consultant at Vesperix today. Just hypothetically, he said if I am going to be a clinical director of an outside entity, I need to review all current contracts and compliance documents to ensure my license is protected. Caleb hesitated. We do not need lawyers involved, Viv. He is not involved, I said quickly. He just offered to look at the paperwork for me, off the record, as a favor. If he gives me the green light, I will sign whatever you want. I will sign the insurance forms. I will sign the loan applications. Everything. Caleb and Naomi exchanged a look. They saw the dollar signs. They saw the path of least resistance. Fine, Caleb said. What do you need? Everything, I said. The lease agreements, the marketing drafts, the insurance proposals, the spreadsheet with the projections. Email it all to me right now. I will forward it to him tonight, and if he says okay, we will move forward tomorrow. I have it all in a Google Drive folder, Naomi said, pulling out her phone. I will share the link with you. Send it to my personal email, I said. Not the work one. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Glow Reset Master Folder shared with you. Done, Naomi said, smiling like the cat that ate the canary. You are making the right choice. Viv, we are going to be a powerful family. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. A power family? I stood up. I am exhausted. I need to take a shower and process all of this. Can you guys give me some space tonight, Caleb? Maybe you can stay at the fire station, just for tonight, so I can review the papers in peace. Sure, Caleb said, standing up and kissing me on the forehead. It took every ounce of my willpower not to recoil. Take your time. We are close. Babe, we are so close to the dream. Naomi hugged me, a stiff, performative hug. I love you, sis. We are going to heal together. Goodbye, Naomi, I said. I watched them walk out the door. I watched Caleb's truck pull away, followed by Naomi's convertible. The second the taillights disappeared, I locked the deadbolt. I leaned against the door and slid down to the floor. I pulled the recorder out of my pocket and hit stop. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. I was shaking from the adrenaline of the hunt. I ran to my laptop. I opened the email. I downloaded the entire folder, every file, every incriminating draft, every projection that proved premeditated fraud. I created a new folder on my desktop. I named it Tax 2020 to ensure that even if Caleb came back and looked, he would never click on it. I dragged the audio file from the recorder into the folder. Then, I logged into my secure cloud storage. I uploaded the Tax 2020 folder. I opened a new email draft addressed to Ellen Ross. Subject: The Smoking Gun, Ellen. Attached is the full digital footprint of Glow Reset, shared voluntarily by the defendants. Also attached is an audio recording of Caleb Monroe admitting to the plan to skirt insurance regulations and Naomi Stephen admitting to the marketing scheme using my identity. He also admits to the timeline for divorcing me after the money comes in. This is enough to break any victim narrative they try to spin. It is also enough to get the attention of the insurance fraud investigators. I hit send. I walked into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. The mascara was smeared. My eyes were tired, but the woman looking back was not the sad social worker anymore. They want to use my story to sell retreat tickets, I whispered to my reflection. Fine, I will use their story to sell a conviction. I turned off the bathroom light. The house was dark, quiet, and finally, safe. I had the evidence, I had the confession, and most importantly, I had the upper hand. The performance was over. The execution was about to begin. The county courthouse smelled of floor wax, old coffee, and the specific kind of despair that only comes from people arguing over who gets to keep the jet ski. I walked in flanked by my father, Harold, and my lawyer, Ellen Ross. Ellen was carrying a file folder so thick, it looked like she was about to defend a thesis on the history of betrayal. She walked with the click-clack rhythm of expensive heels on linoleum, a sound that usually signaled someone was about to have a very bad day. We approached the filing clerk, a woman named Barbara, who had the weary expression of someone who had seen every possible combination of human stupidity. She sighed when she saw us, a long exhalation that ruffled her bangs. She took the stack of papers Ellen slid across the counter. She scanned the first page. Divorce petition, boring, standard Tuesday. Then she flipped to the second page. Motion for forensic accounting. Her eyebrows twitched. Then she saw the third page. Request for immediate injunction regarding identity theft and professional license fraud. Barbara looked up. She looked at me, then at Ellen. Honey, she said, her voice losing its bureaucratic monotone for a split second. This is spicy. We try our best, Barbara, Ellen said dryly. Please timestamp the receipt. We are also filing a motion to compel the production of all financial records for Glow Reset Retreats, Limited Liability Company, dating back 12 months. Barbara stamped the papers with a rhythmic thud-thud-thud that sounded like the heartbeat of justice. We were not just asking for a divorce. We were asking for a forensic autopsy of Caleb's life. We were demanding to see every dime, every Venmo transaction, every secret withdrawal he had made to fund his ego project. An hour later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a friend of mine whose husband works at the Maple Harbor Fire Station. The text read, "Did you just nuke him from orbit because a process server just walked into the station kitchen while they were making chili?" Apparently, Caleb had been holding court, probably telling the guys about his new business venture, when a man in a windbreaker handed him a thick envelope. My source told me Caleb turned a shade of red that matched the fire trucks. He reportedly threw the papers on the table and shouted that this was a mistake, using a string of curse words that would have made a sailor blush. He had to be restrained from following the process server out to the parking lot. The image of Caleb, the neighborhood hero, losing his cool in front of his squad, was the first crack in the pedestal he had built for himself. but I did not have time to gloat. We had a second stop. The State Board of Licensed Clinical Social Workers. This was the part that terrified me. If Caleb's plan had gone through, if he had billed insurance companies using my name, the board would be the ones stripping my license. I had to get ahead of the narrative. Ellen had drafted a formal letter of self-report. It is a counterintuitive move reporting yourself to the authorities before anyone else can, but it is the only way to prove you are the victim, not the accomplice. We sat in a conference room with a stern-faced intake officer. I laid it all out. The emails I had intercepted, the program outline with my forged electronic signature, the audio recording where Caleb admitted I was just a signature to him. I did not sign these, I said, my voice steady, pointing to the documents. I did not authorize the use of my provider number. I am bringing this to you now because I refuse to let my professional integrity be collateral damage in my husband's midlife crisis. The officer looked at the documents. She looked at the timestamp on the audio file. She nodded. Thank you for coming forward. Ms. Stephen, we appreciate the proactive transparency. We will note in your file that you are the reporting party. Any complaints filed against your license regarding this entity will be viewed through this lens. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 48 hours. My license was safe. My career was safe. Now, we just had to deal with the money. That was where Kumar Davis came in. Ellen had forwarded a packet of the evidence to the private investigation unit of the major insurance carrier Caleb was planning to defraud. 2 days later, I met Kumar at a diner near the highway. He was a tall black man with a calm demeanor and eyes that looked like they could read the fine print on a contract from across the room. He ordered black coffee and looked at me with a dry amusement. So, Kumar said, stirring his coffee, let me get this straight. Your husband and your sister stole your social security number, set up a shell company, and planned to bill us for group therapy retreats that involve green juice and vibes. That sums it up, I said. Kumar chuckled. It was a dry, dusty sound. I love these guys. They always think they are the first ones to invent insurance fraud. They think because they use a fancy font on the brochure, we won't notice the provider ID was flagged for identity theft. Ms. Stephen, thank you. We really enjoy catching this type. What happens now? I asked. Now, Kumar said, leaning back. We open a file. We wait for them to submit one single piece of paper, just one claim form. The moment they do, it moves from conspiracy to attempted fraud. And since they used your social security number without consent, that is federal territory. Caleb, meanwhile, was starting to realize that the water was rising. That evening, my phone lit up with a text from him. He had received the notification from the court, the copy of my letter to the licensing board, which he was copied on as an interested party, and a request for information from Kumar's investigation unit. He was panicking. You need to stop this. Viv, he texted, you are taking this too far. If you do not drop the fraud claims, I will have to tell the court about your mental state. I will tell them about the panic attacks. I will tell them you are unfit to manage your own affairs. Do not make me do this. I stared at the screen. He was doing exactly what the exit strategy note said he would do. He was weaponizing my vulnerability. He was trying to use the fact that I, a human being who works in high-trauma environments, sometimes needed support, against me. I typed 3 words. I recorded it. I hit send. I knew he would understand. I knew he would remember the conversation in the living room where he admitted to the plan. I knew he would realize that any testimony he gave about my instability would be contradicted by his own voice on tape admitting he planned to gaslight me. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was not Caleb. It was Naomi. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. Finally, I picked up. What, Naomi? Vivian, she whispered. She sounded breathless, like she was hiding in a closet. You have to stop. The brands are emailing me. Someone leaked the court filing to a blog. They are saying I am a fraud. They are dropping me. Actions have consequences, I said calmly. Listen, she hissed. If you withdraw the petition and stop the investigation, I will make a video. I will go live on TikTok. I will cry. I will tell everyone Caleb manipulated me. I will say I was young and naive. I will save your reputation. I will paint you as the saint who forgave her sister. I gripped the phone tighter. You think I care about my reputation on TikTok? I asked, incredulous. You think I want you to spin a story where I am a saint? I do not want to be a saint. Naomi, I want to be paid back. But the scandal, she cried. It will ruin us both. No, I said. It will ruin you. I have the truth. You have a ring light and a stolen credit card. Do not call me again unless it is through a lawyer. I hung up. I felt a strange sense of power. For years, I had protected Naomi. I had hidden her mistakes. I had cleaned up her messes because I thought that was what big sisters did. But she did not want a sister. She wanted a shield, and I was done being the shield. My father, Harold, had created a new group chat. It included me, my mother Lydia, Jade, Ellen, and surprisingly, Kumar Davis, who had agreed to be kept in the loop professionally. Lydia, my sweet, soft-spoken mother, had turned into a digital detective. She was uploading screenshots to the chat, found an old Venmo transaction where Caleb paid Naomi for pizza at 2 a.m. 3 months ago. She wrote, also found a photo on his Instagram from last year where he is wearing a shirt Naomi bought. They have been doing this longer than they admitted. Jade was handling the morale. She took the text of Caleb's thread about my mental health and turned it into a meme with a cat looking unimpressed. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. She captioned it. It made me laugh in the middle of a sob, which is the best kind of laughter. I realized then that I was not fighting this alone. I had a squad. I had a general in my father, a spy in my mother, a cheerleader in Jade, and a heavy hitter in Ellen. I drove home with Harold that evening after the meeting with Kumar. I looked over at him in the driver's seat. The streetlights cast shadows on his face, highlighting the deep lines of worry etched around his eyes. He looked older than I remembered. He was gripping the steering wheel with the same intensity he had when he taught me to drive at 16. I am sorry, Dad, I said softly. I am sorry you have to deal with this. Do not apologize, he said gruffly. I watched my mother go through this. She let a man take everything because she was too polite to fight. I promised myself my daughter would never be that polite. I reached over and squeezed his arm. I realized then that this revenge story was not just about punishing Caleb and Naomi. It was about breaking a cycle. It was about refusing to be the woman who smiles and nods while she is being robbed. It was about setting a standard. We are going to crush them, Dad, I said. Yes, he said, a small, grim smile playing on his lips. We are, but we are going to do it legally. We are going to do it so thoroughly that when they try to stand up, they will realize they do not have a floor beneath them anymore. My resolve shifted in that car ride. I went from wanting to destroy them to wanting to protect myself. And the beautiful, terrible irony was that the only way to truly protect myself was to let the legal system dismantle them brick by brick. I was no longer the victim. I was the witness for the prosecution, and I was ready to take the stand. I told myself that the live stream was intended strictly for internal family consumption. I thought of it as a digital intervention, a way to force the truth into the open within the safety of the Stephen Circus chat. But I had underestimated the chaotic energy of my Aunt Marcy. Marcy is a woman who treats gossip like a perishable commodity that must be distributed before it spoils. She had screen recorded the entire confrontation, and because she has a vendetta against anyone who thinks they are better than her, she sent the video to what she claimed was a few close friends. By 10 o'clock the next morning, those few close friends had turned into the entire population of Maple Harbor. The video landed on a private Facebook group called Maple Harbor Moms and More. This is a group usually reserved for complaining about the school lunch menu or asking for plumber recommendations. Today, it was hosting the premiere of my marital collapse. The video was a grainy, vertical slice of drama, but the audio was crystal clear. You could hear my voice, cold and steady. You could hear Caleb stuttering. You could see the panic in Naomi's eyes. The caption posted by an anonymous user who was definitely Marcy read PSA. Do not sleep with other people's husbands in houses with floor-to-ceiling windows. Also, check your credit scores. Ladies, it was followed by a teacup emoji. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Naomi's career as a wellness vlogger relied entirely on the illusion of purity. She sold the idea that if you drank enough celery juice and journaled about your feelings, the universe would reward you. Adultery and identity theft did not fit the aesthetic. Her comment section, usually filled with heart emojis and questions about her skincare routine, turned into a war zone. Half the comments were people calling her a homewrecker. The other half were her die-hard fans, the ones who probably bought her preset filters, arguing that love is messy and everyone deserves grace. But the brands did not care about grace. They cared about liability. I sat at my kitchen table with Jade, watching the notifications roll in on Naomi's public page. "Oh, look," Jade said, shoving a handful of popcorn into her mouth. The Sustainable Yoga Mat Company just posted a statement. They are pausing their partnership to evaluate their values. That is corporate speak for, "We are not paying the girl who stole her sister's social security number." She is losing followers by the minute, I noted, watching the counter on her profile drop. She was at 90,000 yesterday. She is down to 82,000. "Good," Jade said. "I hope she goes down to 0. I hope she has to get a job at the DMV. Naomi, however, was not going down without a fight. She did what every canceled influencer does. She pivoted to victimhood. That afternoon, a notification popped up. Naomi Stephen just posted a new video. Title My Truth, the side of the story you did not hear. Jade and I cast the video to my living room TV. We sat there like we were watching a horror movie. Naomi was sitting on the floor of her bedroom, a classic influencer move to induce sympathy. She was wearing no makeup. She looked small and fragile. "Hi guys," Naomi whispered, wiping a non-existent tear. "I have been terrified to speak up, but the hate I am receiving is overwhelming. You saw a video yesterday, but you did not see the years of control. You did not see the family dynamic I grew up in." She went on to describe a childhood where she was constantly overshadowed by a perfectionist older sister. She described parents who were distant and judgmental. She described Caleb as a man who was trapped in an emotionless marriage, a man who manipulated her empathy because he was desperate for someone to listen to him. "I was groomed," she said, looking directly into the lens. "I was made to feel like I was saving him. And now, my sister is using her power, her legal knowledge, to destroy me because she cannot handle that her husband fell in love with someone who actually listens." Jade threw a piece of popcorn at the screen. "She did not just say that. She did not just accuse you of using your legal knowledge. You are a social worker, not a prosecutor." "She is spinning it," I said, taking notes on a legal pad. "She is admitting to the affair but framing it as a trauma response. She is trying to get the sympathy vote before the fraud charges hit." "It is working on some of them," Jade said, pointing to the comments. People were typing, "Stay strong, Queen, and we believe you." I felt a surge of anger, but I pushed it down. I picked up my phone. I did not need a 20-minute video. I did not need a ring light. I took a photo of my hand resting on a stack of legal documents. You could clearly see the header "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage and Forensic Accounting Request." I was holding a pen. I posted it to my own modest Instagram account, which usually only featured pictures of my dog and sunsets. The caption was one sentence, "Sometimes. The best way to tell your story is to let the judge hear it first and the internet hear it later." I hit the post. Within an hour, the tide began to turn. My friends shared it. The local moms shared it. The sentiment shifted from "Naomi is a victim" to "Vivian has receipts." There is something about silence that terrifies people who are used to noise. Naomi was screaming for attention. I was quietly filing paperwork. The internet, in its fickle wisdom, decided that the woman with the lawyers was the one to watch. Caleb was not faring any better. He relied on his image as the neighborhood hero. He was the guy who waved from the fire truck. He was the guy the local bakery gave free donuts to. But small towns are unforgiving when the mask slips. I got a text from the wife of the fire chief. Just so you know, nobody brought cookies to the station today, and Mrs. Higgins down the street told her son he is not allowed to take a picture with Caleb anymore because he is a bad influence. But the real blow came when a reporter from the Maple Harbor Gazette decided to do some digging. He was a young guy named Ben who usually covered high school football, but he smelled a scandal. He ambushed Caleb outside the gym where he did personal training. Ben posted the clip on Twitter. He walked up to Caleb, microphone in hand. "Mr. Monroe, do you have any comment on the allegations regarding Glow Reset retreats and the unauthorized use of your wife's social security number?" Caleb, who was used to being asked about how much he bench pressed, looked like a deer in headlights. "That is a private family matter," he stammered. "We are working it out. It is just a misunderstanding." "So you deny the insurance fraud allegations?" Ben pressed. "I have no comment," Caleb snapped, shoving the camera away. "Get that thing out of my face." The video circulated fast. The caption read, "Local hero or local conman firefighter refuses to answer questions about alleged financial crimes." My phone buzzed again. It was a message from Naomi. She had moved past the public victim phase and entered the private threat phase. "You are ruining my life," she wrote. "I have lost 2 brand deals today. Do you have any idea how much money that is?" I did not reply. "If you do not stop this," she texted again, the bubbles appearing aggressively. "I will tell everyone about your pills. I will tell them about the time you called me crying because you were too anxious to drive. I will paint you as unstable. I will make sure the licensing board knows you are mentally unfit." I stared at the message. A year ago, this would have terrified me. I was private about my anxiety. I worried that people would judge a therapist who needed therapy. But today I saw it for what it was. Extortion. I took a screenshot. I forwarded it to Ellen Ross and Kumar Davis. "Add this to the file." I typed, "Witness intimidation and threats to damage professional reputation." Then, a number I did not recognize called me. I ignored it. It called again. Then a text came through. "Hi Vivian, it is Ari, Naomi's old friend. We need to talk." Ari, I remembered her. She was Naomi's best friend and vlog partner 2 years ago. Then they had a massive falling out, and Naomi claimed Ari was toxic and jealous. I called her back. "Hello." "Vivian," Ari said. Her voice was low. "I saw the video. I saw what she is doing to you. Look, I do not want to get involved, but I cannot watch her lie like this. She did the same thing to me." "What do you mean?" "Naomi uses people," Ari said bluntly. "She used me to edit her videos for free, then dumped me when I asked for credit. But I have something you might want. A few months ago, before they blocked me, I was at a party. Naomi was drunk. She had her phone on the table, recording content like she always does. She forgot to stop recording when she went outside to talk to Caleb. You have a recording of them." "I do," Ari said. "I kept it because I thought I did not know. I thought maybe one day I would need it. I am sending it to you now." An audio file appeared in my messages. I pressed play. The background noise was the thumping bass of a house party. Then, the sound of a door closing. The audio became muffled, then clear. "You need to relax, babe," Caleb's voice said. He sounded arrogant, slurred. "Once the retreat money hits, we are golden. I will handle Vivian. I will divorce her, take half the equity, and we are free." "I just want to be famous." "Caleb," Naomi's voice whined. "I need this retreat to put me on the map. I do not care about the marriage stuff. Just get me the money so I can hire a real PR team." Yeah, Caleb laughed. "You get your fame, I get my freedom. And honestly, once I am single, I am going to play the field for a while. I am not looking to be tied down again immediately. You know." "Even by you." There was a pause. "Whatever," Naomi said. "Just make sure the check clears. I do not care who you sleep with as long as my name is on the billboard." I stopped the playback. I sat there in silence. The cruelty was breathtaking, but the revelation was even starker. They were not in love. They were not star-crossed lovers fighting against a cruel world. They were 2 parasites attached to the same host, and they were planning to betray each other the moment the host was dry. Caleb planned to dump Naomi once he got his payout. Naomi planned to use Caleb to get famous and didn't care if he strayed. I felt a cold, hard laugh bubble up in my chest. "They deserve each other," I whispered. I forwarded the file to Ellen. Subject: the nail in the coffin. They turned on each other before they even started. Let's make sure the judge hears this. I looked out the window. The sun was setting over Maple Harbor. The sky was a bruised purple. My husband was a fraud. My sister was a narcissist, and I was the woman holding the match that would burn their entire false reality to the ground. The revenge was no longer about me fighting them. It was about setting up the arena, locking the doors, and letting them tear each other apart. And I had the best seat in the house. The Harbor Grind is the kind of coffee shop that charges $7 for an oat milk latte and plays aggressive jazz to discourage loitering. It is located right in the center of Maple Harbor, with large windows that offer a panoramic view of the street. It is public, it is well lit, and most importantly, it has security cameras pointing at every table. I arrived 10 minutes early. I ordered a black coffee, sat at a table near the back, and checked my line of sight. 2 tables away, buried behind a copy of the Wall Street Journal, sat my father, Harold. Across the room, pretending to work on a laptop while wearing noise-canceling headphones that were definitely turned off, was Jade. I was not alone. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I felt physically fortified. Caleb walked in at 3 o'clock on the dot. He was wearing a hoodie and jeans, trying to look casual, but the tension in his shoulders gave him away. He scanned the room, saw me, and let out a breath that fogged up the glass door for a second. He looked tired. Good. He sat down opposite me. He did not order anything. "Viv," he started, leaning in. He reached for my hand, but I placed both of my hands around my warm mug, creating a barrier. "Thank you for coming. I know things are heated right now, but I wanted to talk to you without the lawyers, without the noise, just us." "I am listening," I said. My voice was flat. I was not there to negotiate. I was there to gather the final pieces of evidence for the character assessment. "I think we lost our way," Caleb said, adopting a soft, pitiful tone. "The job has been killing me. Viv, you know how hard it is. The calls I take, the things I see. I was burnt out. I was looking for an escape, and your parents have always been so critical of me. I felt like I was drowning, and Naomi was just a life raft." "A life raft," I repeated. "A life raft that cost $1,500 a month and required my social security number to inflate." Caleb winced. He ran a hand through his hair. "That is just paperwork. Viv, you are fixating on the wrong things. I am worried about you. Really worried. Here it comes. The pivot. You have not been yourself for a long time," he continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The anxiety, the panic attacks you had last year. You remember those nights you woke up shaking I was the one holding you. I think this reaction you are having, this legal crusade, is a manic episode. You are spiraling, babe, and I'm trying to protect you from yourself." I took a slow sip of coffee. It was bitter. "So, your theory is that I am mentally unstable because I object to identity theft. I am saying you are not thinking clearly." Caleb's voice rose slightly. "And if we go to court, if you force this, I will have to tell the judge about the pills. I will have to tell them about the therapy sessions. I will have to testify that you are unfit to manage financial assets because you are too fragile." He leaned back, crossing his arms. He thought he had played an ace. He thought the stigma of mental health was a leash he could use to choke me. "You think the judge will believe a firefighter over a medicated wife?" he challenged. "I am a hero in this town. Vivian, you are just the lady who listens to crazy people." I set my mug down. I unzipped my tote bag. I pulled out a single, crisp sheet of paper. It was a photocopy of the prenuptial agreement, specifically page 4. I had highlighted one paragraph in neon yellow ink. Next to it, I placed the copies of the Glow Reset contracts where he had forged my signature. "You are a firefighter. Caleb, that is true," I said. my voice cutting through the ambient jazz. But this, I tapped the paper. This is Clause 14. He frowned. What? The financial misconduct clause, I explained, keeping my eyes locked on his. You signed it 5 years ago. It states that if you use my identity for commercial gain without written consent, you forfeit all assets and assume all liabilities. And these, I pointed to the forgeries. These prove you did exactly that. You are not a hero. Caleb, you are an arsonist. The only difference is, this time, you burned down your own house from the inside out. Caleb stared at the papers. His face went pale. The arrogance drained out of him like water from a cracked bucket. Before he could respond, the cafe door swung open with a dramatic chime. Naomi marched in. She looked like a celebrity trying to avoid paparazzi, which was ironic since she had called the paparazzi on herself for years. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf wrapped around her head. She spotted us and beelined for the table, her heels clacking aggressively. "We need to stop this," she announced, loudly enough that the barista looked up from the espresso machine. She pulled up a chair and sat down without asking, breathless and frantic. "Vivian, I cannot take it anymore. The internet is killing me. I lost another sponsor this morning. People are commenting on my high school photos calling me a snake. You have to tell them to stop." "I do not control the internet, Naomi," I said. "But you started it," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "You and your stupid legal threats. I am a victim here. No one understands me." She turned to Caleb, grabbing his arm. "Tell her, Caleb, tell her we are in love and this was all for a greater good. Tell her you are going to fix this." Caleb ripped his arm away. He looked at her with pure disgust. The mask of the loving partner had completely slipped. "Shut up, Naomi," Caleb hissed. "You are making a scene. You have already ruined your brand. Do not ruin my defense strategy, too." Naomi recoiled, her mouth dropping open. "Excuse me? Your defense strategy. I am the one who built the marketing plan. I am the one who took the risk." "You are a liability," Caleb snapped. "If you had not posted those stupid videos, none of this would have blown up." "Oh, so now I am the problem." Naomi stood up, knocking her chair back. "You told me you loved me. You told me Vivian was cold and boring and you needed a muse." The cafe was silent now. The jazz seemed to have stopped out of respect for the drama. "I have something for you both," I said. I pulled out my phone. I maximized the volume. I hit play on the audio file Ari had sent me. Caleb's voice, tinny but unmistakable, filled the air between us. "You need to relax, babe. Once the retreat money hits, we are golden. I will handle Vivian. I will divorce her, take half the equity, and we are free." Naomi's face softened, hearing the promise, but then the recording continued. "I am not looking to be tied down again immediately. You know, even by you." And then Naomi's voice. "Whatever. Just make sure the check clears. I do not care who you sleep with as long as my name is on the billboard." I hit pause. The silence at the table was heavy. It was the kind of silence that happens when two people realize they have been pointing loaded guns at each other the whole time. Naomi slowly turned to look at Caleb. Her lower lip was trembling. You said I was the one. You said you wanted to marry me." Caleb refused to look at her. He was staring at the phone, his jaw working. "And you said you loved me," he muttered. "Turns out you just wanted a billboard." "You are a liar," Naomi screamed. She took a swing at him with her handbag. It connected with his shoulder with a dull thud. "Hey," Caleb yelled, standing up. That was the cue. From behind the Wall Street Journal. Harold stood up. He folded the newspaper neatly, placed it on the table, and walked over. He stood 6'2", with the posture of a man who had broken up bar fights in military zones. From the other side of the room, Jade stood up, holding her phone up, recording. "Sit down, son," Harold said. His voice was not loud, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. Caleb froze. He looked at Harold, then at me. "You brought your dad." "I am the one who drafted the contract," Harold said, stepping between Caleb and me. "I always enjoy watching a man read the fine print of his own destruction." And I am here for the content, Jade added, stepping up beside me. Hi, Naomi. Big fan of your downfall. Caleb looked around. He was surrounded. He was outmaneuvered. He opened his mouth to speak, probably to launch another threat, to try one last desperate attempt to regain control. But the cafe door chimed again. A man walked in. He was wearing a nondescript gray suit jacket over a t-shirt, with a lanyard hanging around his neck. He had the calm, bored expression of a bureaucrat who carried a badge. It was Kumar Davis. He walked straight to our table, moving with a fluid, predatory grace. He stopped right in front of Caleb. Mr. Monroe, Kumar said pleasantly. Ms. Stephen. He nodded to Naomi. I am glad I caught you all together. It saves me mileage. Caleb looked at the lanyard. He saw the ID card. Special Investigations Unit. Insurance Fraud Division. The color drained from his face so completely he looked gray. Who are you? Caleb whispered. My name is Kumar Davis, he said. I am investigating a series of irregularities regarding provider credentialing and attempted billing fraud linked to an entity called Glow Reset Retreats. I believe you are the signatory. Naomi made a small, strangled noise. I was just the consultant, she stammered, backing away. I did not sign anything. Actually, Ms. Stephen, Kumar said, turning his gaze to her. Receiving funds from a fraudulent enterprise makes you a person of interest, especially since the funds were transferred to your personal account under the guise of consulting for a business that does not legally exist. You dragged them into this, Naomi hissed at me, her eyes wild. No, Naomi, I said. Standing up, I smoothed down my skirt. I felt incredibly calm. I did not drag anyone anywhere. You dragged them into this when you accepted that first consulting check. Kumar gestured toward the door. I think it would be best if we continued this conversation outside. My car is parked just there. We can go down to my office, or we can wait for the local police to facilitate the transport. I prefer the quiet option, but I am flexible. Caleb looked at the door. He looked at the people in the cafe staring at him. He looked at the barista who was now openly filming with her phone, the hero firefighter, the neighborhood good guy. He was being invited to a police interview in front of the town he thought he owned. I will go, Caleb said, his voice defeated. I will go. Me too, Naomi whispered, tears streaming down her face, ruining her contour. I need a lawyer. You certainly do, Kumar agreed cheerfully. He ushered them toward the door. As they passed me, Caleb stopped. He looked at me one last time. There was no anger left in his eyes, just shock. He looked like a man who had woken up in a burning house and realized he was the one holding the matches. Vivian, he started. Goodbye, Caleb, I said. I watched them walk out onto the sidewalk. Kumar opened the back door of a black sedan. Caleb got in. Naomi got in. The door closed. The cafe was quiet. I sat back down. My hands were trembling slightly, a physical release of the adrenaline I had been holding for days. Harold put a hand on my shoulder. You did good, kid. Jade slid into the seat opposite me. That, she said, was better than the Super Bowl. I looked out the window as the black sedan pulled away into traffic. I took a deep breath. The air in the cafe smelled of roasted coffee and cinnamon. For the first time in months, I did not feel the crushing weight of anxiety in my chest. I felt light. I felt clean. I picked up my coffee cup. It was cold, but I drank it anyway. It tasted like victory. Are you okay? Harold asked. I smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. I am better than okay. Dad, I am free. The courtroom was colder than I expected, smelling of lemon polish and stale anxiety. It was 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, and the gallery was packed. I saw my mother, Lydia, sitting in the front row with a posture so rigid she looked like she was carved out of marble. My father, Harold, sat next to her, checking his watch as if timing a military operation. Jade was there, furiously typing on her phone, probably updating the group chat. But beyond my support system, The benches were filled with the curious residents of Maple Harbor. The woman who runs the bakery was there. The high school football coach was there. It seemed everyone wanted to see the final act of the Monroe scandal live. Caleb sat at the defense table. He had cleaned up well. He was wearing a navy blue suit that fit him perfectly. His hair gelled into a respectable, boy-next-door style. He looked like a youth pastor who had been accused of stealing from the collection plate contrite, humble, and misunderstood. Behind him, in the first row of the gallery, sat Naomi. She was wearing oversized black sunglasses indoors, which made her look less like a grieving victim and more like a hungover celebrity trying to avoid a DUI charge. The judge entered, the Honorable Evelyn Miller. She was a woman in her late 50s with steel-gray hair and a reputation for having zero tolerance for nonsense. I had heard she used to preside over corporate fraud cases in Chicago before retiring to our quiet coastal town. This was bad news for Caleb. Caleb relied on charm. Judge Miller looked like she ate charm for breakfast and spit out the bones. Caleb's lawyer, a man named Mr. Pendergast, who had too much hairspray and a cheap tie, stood up first. He launched into his opening statement, and it was exactly the narrative I expected. "Your Honor," Pendergast boomed, pacing back and forth, "my client, Mr. Monroe, admits to a moral failing. He fell in love with another woman, but that is not a crime. What we are seeing here is a vindictive reaction from a scorned wife. Mrs. Monroe," he pointed a finger at me, "is a woman with a history of instability." I sat perfectly still. I felt Ellen Ross, my lawyer, tense up beside me, but she did not move. "We have evidence," Pendergast continued, waving a sheaf of papers, "that Mrs. Monroe has been on prescription anti-anxiety medication for 3 years. She has attended weekly therapy sessions. We have emails where she describes being overwhelmed and unable to cope with her workload. Is it not possible, Your Honor, that this alleged financial fraud is simply a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by a woman who is mentally fragile, a woman who cannot distinguish between her husband trying to start a family business and a criminal conspiracy?" The gallery murmured. I saw Caleb look down at the table, performing shame, but I caught the ghost of a smirk on his lips. He thought it was working. He thought he could paint me as the crazy wife. It was Ellen's turn. She stood up slowly. She did not pace. She did not wave her arms. She picked up a single, thick binder, the golden folder, and walked to the podium. "Your Honor," Ellen said, her voice crisp and clear, "the defense would like to make this about feelings. We would like to make it about math." She opened the binder. "Exhibit A, the prenuptial agreement signed by Caleb Monroe and Vivian Stephen 5 years ago." She handed a copy to the bailiff to give to the judge. "Please turn to page 6, Ellen instructed. "Clause 14, the financial misconduct clause." Judge Miller flipped the page. She adjusted her glasses. She read the paragraph silently. Her eyebrows went up. "Mr. Monroe," Ellen said, turning to look at Caleb, "did you read this document before you signed it?" Caleb shifted in his seat. "Well, it was a long time ago." "It states," Ellen read aloud, "that if one party utilizes the identity, credit, or social security number of the other party for commercial gain without express written consent, all resulting assets become the sole property of the victim, while all liabilities remain with the perpetrator. Did you read that, Mr. Monroe?" "I trusted her father," Caleb mumbled, his voice barely audible. "He handed me the papers. I just signed them." A ripple of laughter went through the room. Judge Miller looked over her spectacles at Caleb. "You signed a legal contract without reading it because you trusted your father-in-law. That is a novel defense strategy, Mr. Monroe." "Move to Exhibit B," Ellen continued, relentlessly. "The Glow Reset Retreats Incorporation documents." She laid out the forensic accounting report. It was brutal in its precision. "Here we see Mr. Monroe's signature as the owner," Ellen said. "And here, in the tax identification field, we see my client's social security number. We have an affidavit from a forensic handwriting expert stating that the electronic signature of Vivian Stephen on the insurance provider application is a forgery. It is an 80% match. Created using a stylus on an iPad registered to Mr. Monroe. Caleb's lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, this is circumstantial. Overruled, Judge Miller snapped. I am looking at a bank statement where $1,500 a month was transferred to a Ms. Naomi Stephen for consulting. Is Ms. Stephen in the courtroom? Naomi froze. She slowly took off her sunglasses. She looked terrified. Now, Ellen said, to address the character assassination regarding my client's mental health. The defense claims Mr. Monroe was acting out of love and confusion. We have audio evidence that suggests otherwise. Ellen pulled out a USB drive. Permission to play Exhibit C and D. These recordings were taken in accordance with state law regarding one-party consent in a public space and within the marital home where there was no expectation of privacy regarding the commission of a crime. Judge Miller nodded. Proceed. The room went silent. Ellen pressed play. My living room conversation filled the air. Caleb's voice, arrogant and dismissive, echoed off the high ceilings. It is not stealing. It is leveraging. As soon as we hit our first quarter targets, I was going to transfer everything over. Then my voice. And what about the part where you leave me? Did you plan to divorce me after the first successful quarter and Caleb's fatal slip? How did you know about the court? I mean, I never thought about that. Caleb squeezed his eyes shut, but Ellen was not done. She queued up the second file, the recording from the party, provided by Ari, the sound of thumping bass, and then Caleb's voice, drunk and cruel. I will divorce her, take half the equity, and we are free. I am not looking to be tied down again immediately. You know, even by you. And then Naomi's voice, clear as a bell. Just make sure the check clears. I do not care who you sleep with as long as my name is on the billboard. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel. Once, hard. Order, order in this court. I looked at Naomi. Her face was drained of all color. She was staring at the back of Caleb's head with pure hatred. Caleb was staring at his hands, knowing there was no way to spin this. He wasn't a confused lover. He was a con artist who had been caught bragging about the con. Mrs. Monroe, Judge Miller said, looking at me. Do you have anything to add? I stood up. My legs felt solid. My heart was beating efficiently. Calmly. Your Honor, I said. The defense brought up my therapy. They brought up my medication. They tried to use my history of anxiety as proof that I am unfit. I paused, looking directly at Caleb. I have anxiety, I said clearly. I take medication. I see a therapist. Those are not signs of weakness. Those are signs of a person who takes responsibility for their own health. What my husband did gaslighting me, using my medical history to threaten me, stealing my identity that is not a mistake of the heart, that is abuse. If this court punishes a woman for seeking mental health care and forgives a man for using that care as a weapon for blackmail, then we have a problem much bigger than a fraudulent retreat center. I sat down. The silence that followed was heavy and respectful. Judge Miller adjusted her robe. She looked at the files in front of her. She did not need to deliberate. She had been dealing with corporate fraud for 30 years. She knew a rat when she saw one. I have heard enough, Judge Miller said. She looked at Caleb. Mr. Monroe, you signed a contract. Clause 14 is valid and enforceable. Based on the overwhelming evidence of identity theft and financial misconduct, I am ruling as follows. She picked up a pen. The marital home located at 42 Elm Street is awarded 100% to the petitioner. Vivian Stephen, Mr. Monroe, you have 48 hours to vacate the premises if you have not already done so. Caleb slumped forward, his head in his hands. Regarding the entity known as Glow Reset Retreats, the judge continued, per the contract, all assets and intellectual property now belong to Mrs. Stephen. However, all debts, including the outstanding business loans and any potential liability from insurance claims, remain the sole responsibility of Mr. Monroe. I felt a smile tug at the corner of my mouth. I owned the company, but he owned the debt. It was perfect. Furthermore, Judge Miller said, her voice turning icy, I am disturbed by the evidence of forgery and the use of a professional license without consent. I am referring this file to the District Attorney's Office for review regarding criminal charges for identity theft and conspiracy to commit fraud. Naomi let out a sob from the gallery. And regarding Ms. Stephen, the judge said, looking over the top of her glasses at my sister, while you are not a party to this divorce, your admission on the audio recording to participating in this scheme for financial gain makes you a material participant. I am recommending that the district attorney include you in their investigation. Naomi stood up. But he tricked me, she wailed, pointing at Caleb. Sit down, Ms. Stephen, the judge ordered. You can explain that to a grand jury. Judge Miller banged the gavel. This court is adjourned. The noise rushed back into the room. People were standing up, whispering, pointing. I stood up and hugged Ellen. I hugged my father. My mother was wiping her eyes, but she was smiling. I turned to leave. In the aisle, Caleb was trying to talk to his lawyer, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Naomi rushed up to Caleb, grabbing his arm. You have to fix this, she hissed, tears streaming down her face. They are going to arrest me. Caleb looked at her. The mask was gone. There was no love, no lust, not even pity. There was just the cold, hard instinct of a rat on a sinking ship. He shook her hand off his arm. Get away from me, Naomi, he spat. You are the reason we got caught. Go find another sister to leech off of. He pushed past her and walked toward the exit. Naomi stood there, alone in the middle of the courtroom, realizing that for the first time in her life, her tears were not going to buy her a way out. I walked past her. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. Vivian. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I pushed through the courtroom doors and into the hallway. The air felt lighter out here, like I'd finally stepped out from under a weight I'd been carrying for months. I'd walked in terrified of losing everything. I was walking out with my house, my name, and the quiet satisfaction that Caleb and Naomi were no longer my problem. The corridor was chaos, lawyers checking their watches, defendants hunting for vending machines, but the noise blurred into the background. All I could hear was my own breathing, steady and calm for the first time in weeks. Viv. The voice came from behind me. It used to be the sound I looked forward to hearing at the end of a long shift. Now, it just sounded like desperation. I did not stop walking, but Caleb ran to catch up. He grabbed my elbow, and I spun around, shaking him off with a look so sharp it could have cut glass. He stopped, breathless. His tie was crooked. The confident, broad-shouldered firefighter who walked around Maple Harbor like he owned the pavement was gone. In his place was a man who had just lost his house, his business, and his reputation in under an hour. Viv, please, he panted, his eyes darting around to see if anyone was watching. We can fix this. We can negotiate. I know the judge said 48 hours, but you cannot just kick me out. Where am I supposed to go? That sounds like a question for your business partner, I said, adjusting the strap of my bag. I still love you, he whispered, trying to summon that old charm, the one he used to get out of speeding tickets. I just lost my way. Viv, I got confused. I got scared of being stuck, but I never wanted to hurt you. I looked him dead in the eye. You did not lose your way. Caleb, you were holding a map. You looked at the route that said integrity, and you looked at the route that said easy money, and you chose the toll road. You picked the path that required you to run me over. You are heartless, he spat, the mask slipping again. No, I corrected him. I am solvent. There is a difference. Before he could respond, Naomi appeared. She was marching down the hallway, her heels clicking furiously, her face a mask of smeared mascara and fury. She ignored me entirely at first and turned on Caleb. You bastard, she hissed, shoving his shoulder. You said you would protect me. You said the legal fees were part of the overhead. Now the judge says I am a material participant. Do you know what that does to my brand? Your brand is dead. Naomi, Caleb shouted back, not caring who heard. You betrayed me in that recording. You said you didn't care who I slept with. Because I don't, she screamed. I care about my career, and you ruined it. She turned to me then, her eyes wild. And you? She pointed a trembling finger at my face. Are you happy you destroyed your own sister? You burned down my entire life because you were jealous that he picked me. I laughed. It was a short, dry sound. I did not burn anything down. Naomi, I just walked into the dark room where you two were plotting and turned on the lights. If you didn't want people to see the mess, you shouldn't have made it. I will be alone, she wailed, the narcissism pivoting to self-pity in record time. I will have nothing. You will be lonely for the rest of your life, Vivian. Because no man is ever going to want a woman who treats her husband like a legal case. I stepped closer to her. She flinched. Being lonely, I said softly, is infinitely better than sleeping next to a man who considers you a line item in his exit strategy. I would rather wake up in an empty bed than in a house built on fraud. Caleb opened his mouth to speak, probably to beg again, but the door to the side office opened. Kumar Davis stepped out. He was holding a new thick manila envelope. He looked relaxed, like a man who had just finished a satisfying lunch. He walked right up to our happy family reunion. Mr. Monroe, Kumar said pleasantly, I just wanted to let you know that my office has officially transferred the Glow Reset file to the district attorney. You should be receiving a summons in the mail within the week. Caleb turned the color of old ash. Criminal charges, he choked out. Identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Kumar listed them off like grocery items. I would strongly advise against leaving the state. Mr. Monroe, it tends to make the judges very grumpy when they have to issue bench warrants. Naomi made a small, strangled noise. What about me? She whispered. I was just the consultant. Kumar looked at her with mild pity. If you are very lucky, Ms. Stephen, you will just have to pay restitution for the funds you received. If you are unlucky, well, I assume you have a lawyer. He will explain the concept of accessory to you. Kumar nodded to me. Ms. Stephen, a pleasure. He walked away, leaving Caleb and Naomi standing in the hallway. Two people who had thought they were the main characters of the world. Suddenly realizing they were just suspects in a police report, I turned my back on them. I did not look back. I walked down the hallway toward the exit. My mother, Lydia, was waiting for me. She looped her arm through mine. She felt solid and warm. On my other side, my father, Harold, fell into step, behind us. Jade was holding her phone up, filming a boomerang of her own shoes walking on the marble floor with the caption, "We do not play with our girl," but I knew she had said it to close friends only. We pushed through the doors and out onto the courthouse steps. The air outside smelled of salt water and car exhaust, but to me, it smelled like oxygen. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs. I looked down at my feet. I was wearing the same sneakers I had worn the day I snuck around Naomi's house, but my legs felt lighter. For months, I realized I had been dragging the dead weight of a dying marriage and a parasitic sister behind me. Now, the rope was cut. I was floating. Harold cleared his throat. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small stack of papers and a set of keys. Here, he said, handing them to me. This is the certified copy of the judgment. This is the confirmation that the house title is clear. And this is the notice that the assets in the Glow Reset business account have been frozen pending transfer to you. I took the keys. The metal was cold in my palm. It was just a key to a house I had lived in for years. But it felt different. It felt like a weapon I had reclaimed. It felt like mine. You know, Dad, I said, smiling at him, I used to think your paranoia was annoying. And now? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Now, I said, squeezing the keys. I think your paranoia offers a higher return on investment than the stock market. He chuckled, putting his arm around my shoulders. My phone buzzed in my bag. It was a call from the Vesperix Community Wellness Center. It was the clinical director. I hesitated for a second. I had ignored work for 3 days. I expected to be fired. I answered, "Vivian." The director's voice was warm. "I just wanted to call you personally. We received the letter from the licensing board. You have been fully cleared. They formally noted you as the victim and the whistleblower. There is no mark on your record." "Thank you," I said, feeling the last knot of tension in my stomach loosen. "Also," she continued, "we were talking. We have had a lot of women coming in lately dealing with, well, exactly what you just went through. Betrayal, financial abuse, gaslighting. We were wondering if, after you take a few weeks off, you would be interested in leading a new support group. We think you have a unique perspective on turning disaster into actionable recovery." I looked at the courthouse behind me. I looked at my family. "Yes," I said. "I think I would be very good at that. I think for the first time, I can tell my patients that I understand, and I can actually mean it." We said our goodbyes in the parking lot. My parents drove off in their sedan. Jade went to post her content. I got into my old SUV. I sat there for a moment, just listening to the silence. I drove home. When I pulled into the driveway, there was no red truck. The garage was empty. I walked inside. The house was quiet. It did not smell like Caleb's cedarwood cologne anymore. It did not smell like the protein shakes he used to leave on the counter. It smelled of fresh paint, old wood, and me. I locked the door. I threw the deadbolt. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of wine. I walked into the living room and sat on the sofa. I looked out the window, the same window I had once stood outside of, peering into a life that was being stolen from me. The sun was setting, casting long, golden shadows across the floor. I thought about revenge. People always say revenge is a dish best served cold, but they are wrong. Revenge is not about temperature. Revenge is about architecture. It is about building a structure where the truth can live, and then inviting the liars in to see if they can survive the collapse. I did not destroy Caleb and Naomi. I just let them live in the house they built, while I walked out the front door. "Revenge isn't about burning them down," I whispered to the empty room. "Sometimes, revenge is just forcing them to live with the consequences, while you get to live with the freedom." I finished the wine. I stood up and walked around the house, turning off the lights one by one. I went upstairs to my bedroom. The bed looked huge. It looked comfortable. I climbed in, pulling the duvet up to my chin. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a text from Jade. "Brunch tomorrow to celebrate your single era." I smiled. I typed back, "Yes, bring extra syrup. I have been salty enough for one lifetime." I put the phone down. I closed my eyes. People say you should never drive to your sister's house unannounced. I stopped by my sister's house and saw my husband's car there. I looked through the window and thought I was about to lose everything. It turns out, that was just the first day I started taking back everything that belonged to me. Thank you so much for listening to this story on Zoe Revenge Stories. I would love to know where you are tuning in from. So please drop a comment below, telling me where you are listening to this story. If you enjoyed watching Vivian take back her life, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit that hype button so we can share this story with even more people.